In other news, the Singapore Prison Service is transforming their cells and boosting community partnerships to better support a growing elderly inmate population. More are requiring specialised cells and support as those aged 65 and above have more than doubled since 2019, from 4% to 9%. Currently, 1 in 6 inmates are 60 or older, up from 1 in 10 in 2019. Our senior reporter Aslam Shah has been working for months to better understand the elderly inmate situation, and he joins us in studio now to share this exclusive report. Aslam, good to have you here with us. Now, first of all, can you tell us why this issue of an ageing inmate population is such a significant one that we should be concerned about?
Well, Angela, it matters because when the inmates complete their sentence, they will be part of society. And if there's no successful integration back with society, it may trigger reoffending behavior and they may end up back in prison. Now, for older offenders, they have additional needs, for example, healthcare needs, social needs, and also they may have a history of criminal activity which may hamper their employment as well. So they are not able to successfully overcome these challenges. It may trigger reoffending behavior. And Angela, that's the reality for Singapore's prisons. I visited the prisons recently to speak with officers, volunteers, and also inmates as well. And some have, reoffended 5 times, 10 times. And for the case of an individual who goes by the alias Desmond, a total of 14 times across 50 years. Let's listen to his story.
These sights are familiar to many Singaporeans. But at 71, Desmond dreams of seeing them for the very first time. Incarcerated 14 times, Desmond says decades of heroin addiction have kept him in and out of prison for most of his life. Even when he was out, he was never truly free. Fear of relapsing and getting arrested again kept him close to home.
When you're in here, when the time comes to go out, your spirit is willing, but your flesh is weak. I always went out, this will be my last time, but no, when I see that thing in front of me, I will just melt.
Now he wants this prison sentence to be his last, but he worries about finding work, securing housing, and whether he can stay drug-free after release.
It's like a monkey clinging on to my back, this heroin. I just can't take it out. And then, moreover, due to aging, I have lost my sense of worth already. Sometimes I think to myself, it doesn't make any difference whether I'm outside or inside.
For Singapore's prisons, Desmond is no longer the exception. As the inmate population ages, more are living with chronic illnesses, mobility issues, and other age-related conditions. Desmond, for example, has a host of health problems, including high blood pressure and high cholesterol.
They do have a lot of medical conditions. Some of them might start to also maybe show early signs of dementia, and this requires a lot of patience and understanding to work with them. Hence, we do have to equip our staff with the necessary skills to manage this population.
This friendly and bubbly officer oversees about 100 inmates and is earning the respect of the older ones, many jailed for drug-related offences. Beyond maintaining security, she is trained to respond to medical emergencies such as stroke or heart attack and helps prepare inmates for life after prison.
I actually think that a lot of them are very much good people and they have a lot of potential. And addiction is just like many other things. It requires a lot of patience and they require a lot of support from others. So I try to have this rapport with them so that it's easier for them to tell me when they are in need of help or support.
Many elderly inmates serve their sentence here at the Assisted Living Correctional Unit, or ALCU, designed for inmates with age-related care needs. The average age of inmates here is about 60 years old. Younger inmates help those with mobility issues move around the facility. It earns them financial incentives and privileges, including snacks, coffee, and bread. As the prison population ages, more cells can be converted into assisted living units when needed.
Some of the features of the cell that are unique to ALCU facilities. So one of it is the metal commode. So because a lot of them have issues squatting down, so the mainstream toilet would not do for them. So we will provide them with a metal commode as well as handrails to actually support their movement. I think this is flush, and then this is for the shower water to come out.
But prison adaptations alone are not enough. Many elderly inmates face an even bigger challenge once they are released. Care Community Services Society runs a program to help them rebuild life outside prison. Over 150 inmates have been referred in the past 2.5 years. Around 35% of them face housing-related challenges, making reintegration especially difficult.
Staying alone without any form of family or next of kin support, then there's also a concern for their reintegration and their ability to stay out. Yeah. So for a fair number of them, we do have to apply for a sheltered home or transitional shelter for them to at least to stay for a certain period of their aftercare phase.
For Desmond, the biggest challenge may not be staying away from drugs. It's building a life without them. Older inmates like him are encouraged to join active aging centres once released. He hopes it will give him something that's long been missing, a new social circle and a new beginning.
Maybe I can find some new friends there. Yeah. Otherwise, I got no friends at all. Yeah. My friends are all druggies, all crooks. So if I go back to them, I'll be back here again in no time.
Now, Aslam, it looks like you really got a behind-the-scenes look at the struggles of the elderly inmates. Now, after months of investigation, what were your key takeaways and lessons that you learned from these challenges they face?
Well, Angela, I found out that the biggest challenge is actually housing and also social support. Many of the older ex-offenders, they struggle with reconnecting with family members or friends. And in the case of Desmond, for example, he mentioned that his friends are all crooks by his own words. So I also realized that what the prisons are doing is that they are starting the reintegration to society early, much earlier than their release date as well. So things like applying for flat, how to manage SingPass, how to navigate the public transportation system, what kind of community activities they can partake, these are all being discussed while the inmates are still in prison before their release. And this is important because it's a challenge that prisons are set to face going into the future because the number of older inmates are rising. So in 2025, it's about 1 in 6 who are 60 or older. And that's a stark increase from 10.8% in 2019. And for those who are 65 or older, the number has doubled, more than doubled from 3.7% to 8.7%. And for many of them, they share their biggest challenge is actually accommodation. But even with all the preparation within prisons, the successful integration back to society is also dependent on whether society is willing to accept them.
I hope that society will be a bit more understanding towards these elderly inmates. I think there's still a bit of maybe stigma or there's a bit of fear when you realize that, this person might have abused drugs before, or at first glance, maybe he has a lot of tattoos on his body and things like that. So we are very lucky to have community partners who really help to support the cause for second chances.
So, Angela, the reality is that about 1 in 5 of those released, they reoffend again within 2 years. But many have managed to break the cycle of reoffending. And their stories can be empowering and also inspiring.
"10 years in prison for drug offences gave 59-year-old Upu Badarudin plenty of time to think about life after prison. When he was released in 2020, he already knew exactly what he wanted to do.
By having my own place, my own shop, right, I must have this commitment and discipline. This thing I think is very important. So I need to wake up. Even my wife also told me, you have your own place, why you want to go early? I said, no. I need to discipline myself, the commitment must be there, I said. So this thing keep me away from bad influences and all the vices.
His barbershop has become more than just a business. Upu mentors former offenders, offering them a listening ear. He even hires former inmates who struggle to find work and urges them to approach organizations like Yellow Ribbon and not return to a life of crime. But rebuilding a life after prison takes more than employment. Many older ex-offenders also need housing, companionship and support adjusting to life outside prison. These volunteers are learning how to best help them rebuild their lives. Liu Mi spent years working in prisons before moving into community work. She says the real challenges often begin after release.
Not only you have the aging challenges, but then the whole loaded thing that, oh, you're from the prison. Right. You know, and then whether you can behave in a way that society can accept you, because they probably come with their own, you know, little habits and challenges.
As they age, many also face declining health and reduced independence. To help volunteers better understand those realities, they go through simulations that mimic declining vision, hearing loss, reduced dexterity, and even medication sorting.
The training is really to take time to hear and understand their story and not to presume that they need the help. Yeah, and always to respect, because at the end, every elderly wants to feel their dignity. Dignity is still important to them.
Volunteer Linda Ng, a former pastor, says many elderly ex-offenders return to communities where they have few people to rely on. She finds that befriending them is a meaningful way to spend her retirement years.
Social isolation is so common, right? As they are alone, that some have very weak family support system, and also they live alone. And sometimes the family is not there, or they do not know how to take care of them. You know, they're like forgotten people. You know, and it's sad because I really think that we have a role to play.
Not everyone will rebuild a life as successfully as Upu has, but he believes that while support and second chances matter, lasting change has to begin with the individual.
Of course, everyone don't want to be labeled a bad person. And we are not born as a bad person. An important thing is realization. Realize your mistake, repent, and do something good for yourself first, then you can do something good to the other people.
Now, it's great that many like Upu are willing to step forward, pay it forward, and also offer his fellow ex-offenders the support they need. But what if ex-offenders don't get the support they require? For example, they can't find a home after leaving prison.
Yes, Angela. So Upu is one of the lucky ones. He has some form of family support after release. But for many of them, they may not have that. And the prisons actually discuss with the inmates, along with the stakeholders, on the plans after release, where they are going to stay. Now, some family members are brought in to the rehabilitation process to discuss how it will be like after release and to help these family members help the inmate integrate back into normal life. Now, these inmates, they can also end up in elder care facilities, for example, through referrals, and also through halfway houses where they are temporary homes for them before they find a more permanent solution. So the prisons and stakeholders get involved very early to plan for their long-term accommodation. And what I learned is that rehabilitation is not just about serving a sentence. For these older inmates, it's also about aging with dignity to ensure that when they are released, you know, they stay out of crime for good, and also give them themselves the best chance to lead meaningful lives, Angela.
Now, Aslam, hopefully this report will spread more awareness about the issue, and also they get more support that they need in prison and outside it as well. So thank you for shedding light on this issue.
Thanks, Angela.
I've been chatting with Aslam Shah about the aging inmate population in Singapore.